Okay, we're recording now and we're going to go live here. Custom live streaming. All right. Broadcast. All right. Good deal. I think we're recording. Got the live stream going. Let me double check something here. A tech guy I'm not, so just bear with me 1 second. Okay. We are live streaming, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show of Messages of Inspiration and Hope show. We're so glad that you're here. We got 3 speakers scheduled to be with us today. Everyone's running a little bit late, but that's not going to stop us from putting on a great show. And because you're here and because I'm here, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to sing a song. I know. Everybody's going, no, please don't do that, Jim. Don't want to rust out my eardrums. No, but I'm going to give you a treat this morning, something that you can use in your business. Does that sound good? Okay, let me share my screen and let's get busy and let me share something with you, please. Oh, Rito, here we go. Speakerspathway.com. This is our homepage for the Speakers Pathway. And Don McGrath and I, we started this show here. And let me ask you a question. Do you want more clients with little to no effort? We got a video we're going to be putting in there. But until we do, I'm going to share something else with you. But first, let me go down here. The Messages of Inspiration and Hope show. This is some of our speakers we've had on the past. Just click on See More, and we've got a whole bunch of them there. We've interviewed over 200 speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It's just been a fantastic show. You can see them listed here, some of the individual speakers, and my goodness gracious, you can see we got pages and pages and pages of them here. I got to move this little bar here out of the way so I can get to, let's go to number 11. It's got 2 ones there. Let's see who's there. And it's loading, and I remember Karen. He was quite an interesting guy there, and let's see here. I'm just going to click on Rhonda Renee right here. If you click on Rhonda, if you see one of the speakers where you really enjoy the presentation, Rhonda's subject was overcoming the challenges of change. Now, what's really important about that, if you resonate with her title and you play her video and it really helps you in your life, please get in touch with Rhonda and let her know and simply say thank you. Because the Messages of Inspiration and Hope show that grew out of a need during the pandemic. And because of that, we started this particular show and we've had hundreds of speakers on, a couple of hundred. And of course, I'm the host of Your Future Is Now. And over the years, I don't know how many people I've interviewed. We got over 5 million downloads and we're on 8 different podcasts. We've been picked up on from iHeartRadio to Google Podcasts to iTunes. Goodness, the list just goes on and on and on. So anyway, Brad, if you'd be kind enough to cut off your video, please. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Got it.
And voice, cut everything off. Thanks, sir. Got here a little bit late, so we're getting going here. But anyway, you can leave a comment for Rhonda and all that. But let me go back up here and let's go over to Speakers Pathway here to the very top. Get my mouse going here. And if you notice over here at the very top, the 6 Keys freebie. Dandy Don McGrath, he's a co-founder. Me and him, we founded Speakers Pathway, as I said earlier. If you click on that, oh my goodness. Remember when I asked you a question about, would you like to have more sales with very little talking? Create your powerful webinar that attracts your ideal clients. These are the 6 steps that we originally used in the 6 keys to webinars that sell. Would you please mute your mic, please? Thank you. Please mute your mic. We're live on the air. You showed up late, so please mute your mic. Thank you, sir. 6 keys to webinars that sell. You want to talk to the right audience. You want to identify the problem. You want to tell them what the promise is. You want to show value. You got a call to action. And most importantly, you got to hold them to the end. Yesterday, I was interested in a topic. And really what I wanted the individual to do that was sharing the information was to simply tell me what's in it for me. But it wasn't a sales presentation. You know what it was? It was a science class because the guy was a scientist. I'm going, oh my goodness. After about 20 minutes, I hit the red X up there and, are you sure you want to leave? And the answer was yes, because people value time over money. Now, the 6-minute webinar, you can download this here for free. And let me get on down here to the bottom here, if I may. Somehow or another, my thing here is a little stuck. There we go. There we go. Zoom is a little slow this morning. Either that or I'm a little slow in between the ears. I'm not going to take all the time to read this right here, but go to 6minutewebinar.com. That is not a live link, but you can copy that. And since I've already got it open, there is the 6-minute webinar. This is where you can create a webinar that will sell for you. It will attract clients with little to no selling. It's a 24/7 ready Freddy salesman, okay? That is extremely important, extremely critical, and most importantly, you will stop selling and start telling, and start selling. Let me cut my, share the screen off here. And when people come in late, we get kind of goofed up there a little bit, and I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. But point being, whenever it comes to a 6-minute webinar, you want to deliver a very precise message. What problem do you solve for that individual? One of our executive training directors, Mr. Bill Heinrich, he's one of the co-creators of the 6-minute webinar. He says just a very clear, precise message. He is the author of the 7 Levels of Truth that you see this book right here. And that's Mr. Bill's picture there on the back. His website, as you can see, is the truelifepurposenow.com. truelifepurposenow.com. And Mr. Bill has a free ebook that you can get for free on the internet. Just go to myfreebook.me, M as in Mike, E as in Echo, myfreebook.me. It's a book on clarity, because that's where you start. You got to be very crystal clear on your message. You got to be able to deliver your message in a very timely manner, because people value time more than money. Just like I explained yesterday, I was very much interested in this topic. But the problem was they didn't have a person up there with a clear message. They had a scientist, and the scientist is trying to teach me everything. I'm going like, I don't need all that. It's kind of like going to buy a car. Does a salesperson start out telling you which piston fires first? No. So download the 6 keys to a fantastic webinar. October the 24th is a Saturday. Mark that on your calendar. We're having a special presentation for the 6-minute webinar. Just go to 6minutewebinar.com, and October the 24th, we're putting on a special training session. You'll be able to get the clarity and see what the 6-minute webinar is all about. And thank you so much for letting me introduce you to the 6-minute webinar. And let's see, our first guest here is Mr. Brad Richard. Let me bring Brad here to the show here. Okay, let me unmute you and ask you to start your video. Brad, are you there?
Here, let's see if I can get little technical glitches to get started. There we go.
Yeah, it's important to always show up early before a show, so that way if there's any technical glitches, we can get the wrinkles ironed out and all those good things.
We're good to go.
Yes, sir. But anyway, today you're going to be sharing a message with us about find your light. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, and I got the background to kind of emphasize the point.
Okay.
Sitting out in space here, so it's good to see you again, Jim.
Brad, it's good to have you back again, my man. I know you're going to put on a powerful message. Let me do a couple of things first. Let me stop my video and shut off my mic, and the stage is yours.
Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Brad Richard, and I wanted to start off today with a story. The talk today that I'm going to give to you is Find Your Light, and I have the background to kind of emphasize that. But I want to dedicate today to my father, and I want to start off with a story about my father and about his passing. And so let's get started with that. And it all started. The story begins that my father was in the ICU unit, and he had fallen, and he had bleeding in his brain from a fall that he took in his nursing home, and he had bleeding in his brain, and the doctors had set up a meeting with myself and my whole family. I have 9 brothers and sisters, and I am the baby of 10. And so all 10 of us were there along with my mother, and we had a conference with his doctors, and the doctors explained to us during that meeting that they were in a kind of a dilemma. They could not operate on my father and control the bleeding in his brain because he also had an obstruction in his heart. One side of his heart was obstructed 80%, and one side of his heart was had 20%, was flowing 20%. And they stated to us that he could not survive a brain surgery, nor could he survive a heart surgery. And they recommended to me and my family that we make the decision to let him pass peacefully. After a lot of deliberation and conversations and discussions amongst myself, my mother, and my siblings, the decision was made to let him go. And they moved him to a hospice room within the hospital. They were arranging plans to move him to a hospice room back in his nursing home. And the night before I was scheduled to fly back home, I spent several hours in a adjacent room to his, and talked with some of my siblings, and we just kind of reflected on his life, and there wasn't anything that I could do, and I wasn't able to stay any longer, so it was time for me to fly back home. But the night before, late into the night, early morning, I went into his room, into his hospice room, to say my last goodbyes to him. And I put my hand on his forehead, and I told him that I loved him, and that his little buddy, that was his nickname for me, his little buddy, and told him that his little buddy would be okay, and that we would take care of mom for him, and that we would take good care of her, and that it was okay for him to go and find his light, is what I told him. I told him that he needed to let go and not worry about any of us, and that I would be okay. And I gave him permission to pass on and to find his light. And I put that in my message to him, and the last words that I told him, for a specific reason. He led a life of non-expression. He didn't show his love, and he didn't really express his feelings and emotions to any of his children, including me, as well as to my mother. And he really lived inward. He never understood his dreams and his goals. He never really embraced who he was as a man, and he had a lot of negative thinking. At sometimes his thinking was very delusional, and he was very accusatory, and he blamed a lot of people for a lot of things that happened in his life. And so I told him to go find his light, and to find himself, and learn to love himself when he passed on to his heavenly existence. So at that point, I left the room and said goodbye to all of my relatives, and said goodbye to my mother. And on the way home, as I was sitting, I had a window seat in the airplane, And on the way home, it was cloudy. It was cold. I was flying out of Minneapolis, and on the way home, a beam of sunlight came through the window of the airplane, and I looked at all the other windows on the airplane, and I looked at all of the sky, the whole sky that was outside of my window on the airplane, and it was cloudy, and there was only one spot in the clouds that there was a break in the clouds, and the light was shining through that break in the clouds, and it was illuminating the very window that I was sitting in. And my heart and my mind immediately came to the conclusion that was my dad, and he was shining his light on my window and on my airplane for a safe trip for me back home. And that was a very profound point in my life, and it was an emotional experience to have that light shining upon me through the window of that aircraft. When I got home, I expected to hear that he had passed peacefully, and the doctors gave him about 24 to 48 hours. They took him off all the machines, and they basically said that he should pass peacefully in 24 to 48 hours. Well, day after day went by, and I expected to hear that he had passed. And as I got updates day after day, he was still fighting, and he was still refusing to pass. He was scared. And on the 10th day, after living on ice chips and morphine, on the 10th day, he finally gave up the fight and left all of us and moved on. So the message of my story to you is the importance of finding your light while you are here, and you can make a difference in the lives of people around you and the people that you love. The ironic thing of the story, another important aspect of my story to you, is that the way that he passed on, he had bleeding in his brain, and obviously his brain was clouded with blood, and he had a blocked heart, and that represented to me those two causes of his death represented the entirety of his life. He held back his feelings. He held back his emotions. He did not show affection or show love the way most people did. And and because of that, his heart was blocked. And it was a manifestation of how he lived his life, in my opinion. And also, he had a lot of negative thinking, a lot of delusional thinking, and that also was represented by the second condition, and that was the bleeding in his brain. So my message to you is, don't pass on and don't leave this world with your light still inside you. I encourage you, and I beg of you for your best life, that you share your light, you find it, you embrace it, and you make sure that you live every day of your life with your light. It doesn't do anyone any good, especially you yourself, to take that light with you. It needs to be shared with others, and it needs to be expressed in your everyday lives. So that is my message. That is my message to you. And I want the listeners to this talk to be inspired and encouraged. And this message, I share it. I share it for your benefit, but I also share it in honor of my father. And this is my way of making a difference in people's lives for him. He never had a chance to do that. And so this is my way of sharing his message and sharing the lessons that I learned from the passing of my father, and how important it is for all of us to find our light and share it with the world. Please don't die with your light inside you. It's very important. And I believe with all my heart that my father has found his light. My mother did pass away several years after he did, and I'm sure that he found his light and he found his wonderful wife once again in heaven. So that is my message, and I hope you found inspiration in it, and please benefit from this story and from the stifled life that my father lived, and hopefully you can gain some insight and some benefit from my story. So I send love to all the people viewing this message, and I encourage you, find your light, embrace it, and share it with the world. Thank you very much.
Brad, before you leave, do you have a website or email address so people can get in touch with you and like tell me more?
Yes, sir. They can visit me at www.bradrichard.net, www.bradrichard.net. I'm an author, speaker, and mentor, and they can find out more information about my services at the website.
Very good. Very good. I want to, just simply say that you really touched my heart there because, I can relate to what you're saying there about, your father and all. And because I grew up in a time where, my father, I never heard him say the words, "I love you,"
Right.
even though I knew he did. But there was just sometimes that during that era that some men were brought up in the nonsense thing about, real men don't cry and all that stuff. And I don't know what it was. It was just it's sad really when you think about it.
Yes, sir. I was a victim of verbal abuse, and he planted a seed in me for the first 50 years of my life, uh, and he spent his life questioning me and questioning my sexuality, questioning if I was gay or if I was a faggot or what was, because I would reach out to him for affection and attention, and he took that as something that, well, he didn't understand it, and that was
Mm.
his only way of dealing with my need for affection and attention and validation. And so the results of his words and his actions caused me to live a life of codependency for 50 years of my life. So it was a very powerful impact. But when he passed, I made the realization, and I really understood. I got the message, loud and clear, that he was troubled and he was hurting and he was very, very scared. And he left in a lot of fear. And I don't want anybody, including myself, to ever be in that situation. And please don't end your life in that situation. Find your light, share it with the world, and it can start today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because Mr. Bill Heinrich, I mentioned earlier, and right in the gate there, the 7 Levels of Truth. Let me show Mr. Bill's book again. I guess the camera can see that good.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bill's picture here on the back and his website. If you can see that, truelifepurpose.com, True Life Purpose Now, truelifepurposenow.com, excuse me. Trying to read it through the camera there. I should know it by heart. And Bill is all about clarity, and he's all about abundance. In everything that we fear, it's in the physical world. It has nothing to do out. Once we get out of the physical and get into our hearts and focus on loving one another and sharing love and just being a good neighbor with, people that we come in contact with. A lot of this, nonsense stuff, and that's what it is. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm just saying a lot of this nonsense stuff just falls by the wayside because I'm convinced that maybe your dad and I know my dad, they may not have had the chance that we've got because of education, because of all the good positive leaders out there who are speakers, who are motivators. They didn't have access to that. I mean, they
Right.
were very, very limited. Their circle was very, very small. And by the time that they're seven, a lot of the things they've already been shaped.
Mm-hmm.
And I read this morning, and I'm still out on this one here. I got it on military.com website, where the drill sergeants, whenever the new recruits show up, they're not going to be, what do they call them? The way the drill sergeants attack. Okay, you people, get over here, you knuckleheads. And of course, nowadays we look back on all of that and we kind of smile, and they say, well, that's not the way we should be now in this day and time with people. And of
Right.
course, the attack mode and all, but I mean, that was the standard for how many decades? I mean, it's, I used to laugh because if you went into the military, the one common thing that your grandmother would tell you is what? Don't volunteer for anything.
Right.
I don't know where that come from. I mean, I'm getting a little bit off subject here, but apologize for that. But when I came back from Operation Desert Storm, my National Guard unit had been disbanded, so I had to find another home. So I went to the reserves, and because I was going, even though I was still in the Army, I went from the Army National Guard to the Army Reserves. I had to list again. So every time you enlist, you got to raise your hand. And there was a young man in there at this MEP station, and he was getting ready to go to basic training. His family was there, and they're seeing him off and all that. And I go in there to, I get to take my oath too. So I'm there with the young man, and we take our oath and all that. And then they're getting ready to leave, and I went over to say something to the sergeant. I'm getting ready to leave too. And the lady that was with them, I guess she was the grandmother, I don't know. She turned to me and she says, now remember, don't you volunteer for anything. I said, thank you for that heads up, I still crack up about that.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's really a time that when dads grew up during that time, I mean, they were just kind of like, they didn't have much slack in their chain. And
Right.
I remember me and a friend of mine, and I guess you probably have heard this too, or at least relate to this too, back during that time. The wife would say, George, Billy's got a screwdriver over there, and I'm afraid he's going to stick it in the wall receptacle. And George would say, well, let him, he'll learn. That was just the way they were wired mentally.
Right. Right.
And
That's yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. He was he would have been, if he was still alive, he would have been 98.
Wow.
98 years old last month in August, he would have been 98. And so he came from a different world,
Yeah.
a different mindset. There was so many things in his childhood that were never, ever talked about, never addressed. And now in the virtual stage world and in the self-help world, there is so many people that will give from their heart and help others before it's too late. And so that's what I'm about. And that's why, this platform and Speakers Pathway is a phenomenal place with great speakers. This is my second time, and all the speakers are terrific. They all give from their heart, and they're here to help the viewers and the listeners to the show. So let them, if you have questions and you need answers and you need help and guidance, you have many people here on this platform to reach out and help to make someone's life a little better. We all need to be there for each other, and that is my mission, and that is the mission that I will take with me when I go. Is I want to serve right up to my end as well, and I don't want to leave with any regrets, and I definitely don't want to leave in any fear. And so that's like my crescendo and my conclusion. So that's my message, and I hope it inspires people.
Well, thank you, Brad. And also, too, I'd like to keep you on a little bit long and visit a little more if you got the time, because,
Sure.
Zig Ziglar, he went around the world for how many decades? He was telling people you can get anything out of life that you want as long as you help other good people get what they want. And Zig actually got that from a book called Proverbs. And Proverbs chapter 11, verse 25 talks about the generous person by watering others, they will be watered themselves. Now, the reason that's so important for us to understand is that we've got to be able to love ourselves. We've got to be able to have a compassion in our hearts and a love for other people to be able to help them. And
Hmm.
if we do that, that's a prerequisite. We got to help them before we can be helped ourselves. And I tell people I grew up on a farm in North Carolina. My dad, he grew two crops. He grew cotton and he grew corn. And I can honestly say I actually picked cotton because I did. And not a lot, but I mean, I can say it because growing up on a cotton farm, you're going to pick some cotton. There ain't no question about that. But my point being is that I remember all of the work we had to do in preparing the soil before we even planted the seed. And then we had to plow the fields, and we actually had to go in and, it took a lot of work, but hoeing the cotton, thinning the rows and all that to give the room for it to grow and stuff. And I mean,
Right.
wow, all that hard work before we could reap the harvest. That's my point. And the same is true in life. If you want to be blessed, you got to be blessing someone else first as a prerequisite. And that's what Zig meant when he told everyone. He says, you can get anything out of life that you want as long as you help other people get what they want. And that's what Bill Heinrich talks a lot about, one of our executive training director. He's also the co-creator of the 6-Minute Webinar. And I don't know if you saw that, did you, Brad? The 6-minute webinar we got.
I came in right at the very beginning, and
Oh,
I saw
okay,
bits and
okay.
pieces of it.
Well, just in your calendar, October the 24th is a Saturday. You want to make sure you pencil that in. Go to the 6-minute webinar. That's SIXMINUTE webinar.com, 6-minute webinar. We will have the date listed there, but it's going to be October the 24th. You can sign in, and I think it's a $99 charge or something like that, but it's a full 3-hour presentation. And when we put the first one on a couple of weeks ago, and I'm thinking going in, Don McGrath and Bill are running the show there, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness gracious, 3 hours on a webinar. We're gonna lose people. We had 61 people register for the show. We had 44 people show up, Brad. Do you know how many people left? With no bio breaks, no nothing. Zero. Zero. And then when Don said, okay, because we started at noon Eastern time, we were over at 3. And at 3 o'clock, he said, well, it's 3:02. He says, I guess we better wind this thing up and respect people's time. We don't want to, thank you so much for being with us and all that. And it was a couple of people says, wait a minute, we want more. Because that 6-minute webinar was sharing with them what they wanted to hear. And that's what, like I said when I first opened the show about, there was a product I was very much interested in yesterday, and I was listening to it. There was a person outside my window there. I apologize. But the guy went on and on and on. I mean, I know about the problem. I know all these other things, but he was kind of like trying to sell me a car and say, okay, when you get in there and to crank it up, the cylinder that fires first is this one. The cylinder fires second one is that one. He was getting all this scientific detail, and I'm going like, oh man, come on. After about 20 minutes, I clicked off. So the 6-minute webinar, it takes away all that telling, because we've been brainwashed. We've heard if you're not telling, you're not selling. But people value time over money, and the 6-minute webinar just really trims it right down. This is not a commercial for 6-minute webinar, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just sharing some information here. But if you're running a business and you'd like to have clients, get your message to your client and speak to your ideal client, the 6-minute webinar is the best thing I've ever seen. And Brad, I tell you right now, you got to share with us again your website And everybody knows it's www, and that's short for World Wide Web. I don't know why it's short, because World Wide Web only has three syllables, and www has how many? But what's your website, sir?
It's a real simple website. It's bradrichard.net, bradrichard.net. My website has multiple drop-down menus. I do have my own podcast, as well as I have a video course, audio course. They can find all the information there. Obviously, the most important page on the website is the contact page. I am there to answer questions and help people find their light and find their little me, their little person. That's really what I teach, is going back to move forward. And everything I've done, I've done because of my transition and the changes that I've made in my own life, and the lessons that my father left behind. And, I'm just kind of moving forward with that in honor of him. So, yes, bradrichard.net. And I would be more than happy to talk with anyone. They can contact me there.
You mentioned you're a podcaster. When is your podcast, and how can people get listen to your podcast?
The podcast is on Anchor FM, which is owned by Spotify. It's the Man at 50 podcast, and we cover topics all over, the place. I do interviews with authors and other speakers. Great content, great value. It's all about self-help, all about helping people reach their goals and dreams. And at the website, the easiest way to get to the podcast is bradrichard.net, and they can click on the podcast drop down, and it'll take them right to the podcast page. I'm on I'm on 11 platforms, and the podcast was just recently added to Amazon Music. So now my podcast is on Amazon as well.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, I have a radio show, and we've got over 5 million downloads, and we're on a bunch of places too. And iHeartRadio is one, and Google Podcast, and iTunes, of course, the standard. And I'm also on Spotify, and I got picked up on some smaller ones. Did you get picked up on some smaller ones you never heard of?
There were some small platforms that I had never heard of.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, I get a lot of traffic, from the smaller ones. Of course, Apple iTunes is Apple iTunes,
Right.
Google Podcasts, and now Amazon Music has podcasts, millions of them.
Oh yeah.
And so those are the best ones, and they have the best content. So. And you asked me about it. It's every week, and sometimes every other week, depending on scheduling. Right. But I try to put out at least 2 to 3 every month.
I see.
So it's an ongoing. And I'm fixing to release episode 31, and that'll be out today or tomorrow.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful, sir. Very, very wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for being with us, and we're so glad that you were able to be with us today. And I really like your background there, your picture there is light. Find your light, excuse me. That was the name of your subject today, and your topic. And it's so good to have you back on the show again, because I enjoyed the first time you were on. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find this presentation, and the first one. Do you remember what it was? It was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
I think it was August 14th, maybe August 14th. It was mid-August.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I do so many. This is our 73rd, I think, or something like that. We first started out, my goodness, we were Monday through Friday, and we were doing them daily, and I was doing 4 a week, and then Don had to take the podcast here on a Friday, because I was doing a radio show on Friday at the same time, and it's just been boom, 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 boom.
Well, my previous appearance, the previous talk that I gave, there's a link on my website for the first one I did for Speaker's Pathway. Good. So they can find it there as well as today's.
Good deal. And we'll get this one here ready for you as soon as we possibly can. We got some people behind the scenes at work and do all those things. And I'm glad of that because I don't have that gift. It's one of many gifts technically that I do not have. But I want to thank you again for your presentation and being with us today. It's really been a wonderful honor.
You're
And
welcome.
as we get ready to close the show, I'd like to wish everyone out there that's having a birthday today, I'd like to wish them a very, very, very happy birthday. And remember, on your birthday, all the desserts that you love and all of the birthday cakes that some or birthday cake you may have, just remember one thing: on your birthday, it's health food. So treat yourself, love yourself, share your sweets, the good desserts, and share your sweet spirit with others. I'm Jim Grant on behalf of Mr. Brad Richard and Speakers Pathway Coalition, the 6-minute webinar. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed day. Take care. We'll wave by. Thank you, Brad. Good seeing you again.
Take care.
Have a
Bye.
wonderful
Goodbye.
day.
You too. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.